Welcome back, folks, to more Arcanum. Here we are on Half Ogre Island. Let's see what this is all about. I'm quite intrigued, having never been here myself. Lug unfortunately did not get to travel here to Half Ogre Island and see whence he was created from. Hello? Anybody home? What the fuck? Place is empty. What the shit balls? Don't care about traps. Half ogre laboratory journal. A male, human, female half-ogre coupling producing offspring seems to be extremely rare occurrence and cannot be depended on for the significant numbers. The female human, male half-ogre experiments fare much better, but with 100% loss of host. Our rate of experimentation has increased with the new influx of female subjects from the lower part of society. These new hosts cannot even be relied upon, and go to term being such poor health suffering from common ailments those living in the manor are subject to. A healthier soil for subject would help immensely, as I have some new surgical ideas I would like to implement, but the subjects that I have to work with will not hold up under the knife. The new surgical techniques we are applying have reduced the numbers of fatalities by removing the unborn before term. The hosts seem to be viable for 3 harvests before their bodies fail. Some of my less dedicated colleagues have been dismissed, as they were expressing doubts about our new female host. I have no such compunctions. Once they are here, they are a number to me, and nothing more. Scientific advancement would never occur if the weak-willed were to have their say. Alright, we got a fate point for discovering the journal here on Half Ogre Island. Full heal, spell at maximum, save against magic. Honestly, the only thing I even like using the damn thing for is pickpocketing and getting away with it. But I'm into killing bitches now. I don't even need a pickpocket. So we'll just save them up. Mayhap use them, mayhap not. Now, do I have to pay? Maybe I better take the boat back. I don't want him to get stranded here. Looks like I didn't get charged on the way back, which is nice. Or maybe I did, and he just didn't tell me. Either way, got plenty of money. 32,000 gold shall suffice. Let's return to Arthur Tyrion. Ironically, his last name is the first name of the dwarf in the Game of Thrones series. To gain another level, what shall we get? Kind of want to start jacking up the decks, so I can get in a couple more spells per turn, perhaps, or I might just start learning the more spells. What the hell? Where'd he go? I'm glad you are here. You were working on Tyron, were you not? Oh, Tyron, not Tyrion. My bad. Who are you? Where is Tyron? I do not know. I was meant to meet him here. We were to exchange information. I don't believe you. What have you done with him? I could be asking you the same thing, barging into his house uninvited. I have been a colleague of his for quite some time. He's never mentioned you, but I do know who you are and what you have recently acquired. Something that could be damning to certain parties, yes? Perhaps. Ah, I see you are wary. That is smart, as the trail we are following is a dangerous one. Very well, I shall share with you the information I've gathered, and you can decide for yourself whether to believe me or not. I am not certain of how much I believe myself, but this is what I found out. I'm listening. About 55 years ago, a group of gnomes from various parts of Arcanum began to acquire large amounts of money from investments in a new technology. As their wealth and perceived influence began to grow, and old prejudice began to surface, gnomes were thought to be miserly thieves. The other races did not trust them to gain power. There were thefts, beatings, threats, mysterious letters in the night warning the little gnomes to keep their place. The gnomes tried human bodyguards to no avail. Any human that would be a bodyguard to a gnome at the time was by definition an untrustworthy, shitless sort. At first they tried unsexually to breed elves and orcs into some bestial and magic hybrid to do their bidding. The Siamese twins! Exactly, but you know all about that. You know what happened to you, now don't you? It was a foolhardy idea to begin with, at any rate. Orcs have a natural dislike for gnomes, and the gnomes needed something much more docile. I'm listening. The next obvious choice seemed to be the half-ogres. Tired of being hunted and promised but large amounts of food gained the gnomes extremely loyal bodyguards. But there was a problem. The half-ogre was a very rare thing in those days, and with good scientific reason for being so, and the gnomes without bodyguards were used as leverage against their protector. The greatest concentration of these gnomes were in Tarant, which was still a monarchy at the time. They pleaded with the king for his help, but the last thing the king wanted was a group of rich banker gnomes with power in the kingdom. The beatings continued, and the king and the court turned a blind eye to their plight. That was when, well, let's call him Mr. X, decided to act. Mr. X? Yes, he hired a prostitute to go home with him one evening, and he locked her in the basement, where he also happened to be keeping a full-blooded ogre. You can imagine what happened then. She died giving birth, as was expected, but now Mr. X had his future bodyguard. He recruited some other gnomes, and the kidnappings began in earnest. What happened then? For safety's sake, they set up a breeding laboratory on the island he visited. Their plan wasn't working as well as they'd hoped, as the women all died giving birth. And the more prostitutes had disappeared, the more authorities were looking into their affairs. They decided to try surgical means of delivery, but the women were too sickly to survive that. Then, when the king's hireling discovered what was happening, unfortunately for the king though, the gnomes had become incredibly rich in this time, rich enough in fact so purchased the king's murder, and the kidnapping of the queen and her young son. Rumors began circulating immediately, pointing to the queen as the killer of her husband. The queen was brought to the island, wasn't she? Yes, she was the patient in the first successful operation. She mothered 3 before she passed, I believe. Soon after the Industrial Council gained power at Trent, the disappearances of prostitutes began to slow down, but the mysterious rash of disappearances of wives and daughters of the political enemies of the council began. That is fantastic! They only lasted for a short time, however, as they now bred enough half-ogre females to no longer need to rely on human breeders. They have hundreds of them now, kept in cages on a breeding farm somewhere. They keep this whole thing in a cloud of mystery by releasing half-truths, lies, and even real information, though unstable individuals like Tyrone. So, no one believes any of it? Exactly. Everyone believes it is the imaginations of madmen and paranoids. Is this all true? That's a good question. We must not be too anxious to believe it because we want it to be true, or too anxious to disbelieve it because we want it to be false. We must remain neutral in our decisions as to whether it is true or not. What? That's absurd. It is either true or it's bullshit. Then none of it is true. Well, maybe some of it. I'll bring proof to the press. I'll expose the whole thing. What do you have? Nothing. You have a journal that was left for you to find on purpose, which could have been written last week. What have you seen? Why, I believe you saw an abandoned warehouse, nothing more, save what your twisted imagination made it out to be. Why are you doing this? We always needed more converts to spread the word. You might have had real information, but now you don't know anything. What I have told you is real. Feel free to tell anyone everything I have told you. I'm sure they would love to hear your story. Perhaps, good day to you, sir. It's been a pleasure. My pleasure has not yet begun. It involves your excruciating pain. Wily gnome. You punch like a little bitch. Boom, shakalaka. Them skullfucks simultaneously! Oh my god, give me good points, I hate hate good points. I will expose the truth. That, of course, is a little tribute to the X-Files series. A lot of the terms and dialogue there were coined by X-Files. Who might you be?
I'm Sam Longwell, and this is Caledon Branch Office of Tarantium.
The Tarantium doesn't Caledon have its own newspaper? I have evidence of a conspiracy you might be interested in. A look of suspicion crosses his face.
What do you mean conspiracy? Is this some type of jest?
The Industrial Council has been illegally breeding half-ogres.
Let's say I was interested in the story, I would need proof.
It's all right here.
By the gods, that is astonishing. I can make my reputation with a story like this. If you leave this with me, I'll print it in its entirety. It'll be the story of the century.
What will you pay me for it?
What, are you jesting? On a journalist's salary, I could give you 100 coins.
Okay, here it is.
I cannot believe this. This is what I've been waiting for. I'll write this up now and get it in tomorrow's paper.
I must take my leave.
If you come back later, you'll find out that that was an imposter and he's not writing up shit. So the story remains unproven. But regardless, the quest is complete. Let's get back on the main quest storyline here. Head on over to Roseborough.
These bunnies keep coming back. They breed like rabbits. I think they've eaten their dead owners. Carnivorous bunnies are cool.
I can't see shit, just kill him. Bolo's altar. We'll be visiting that shortly.
This ancient stone is carved with what looks to be in old runes and numbers.
The plaque reads, "This stone was found in the middle of the ring of Progdar. The meaning of the markings on its face are unknown. It's been moved here to protect it from the ravages of tourism."
Well, I'm glad to meet you.
Could you answer some questions for me about this matchbook?
Matchbook? Yes, this is one of our matchbooks. What question do you have?
I found it on a dead man at the IFS Zephyr. Did you know him?
No, I did not know anyone. Wait, yes. Yes, there was one person it could have been.
Who?
Well, it's a strange tale, really. Late one night, I noticed all manner of strange light and sound emanating from the ring. Not long after the ruckus had ceased, a haggard and disheveled man appeared here, inquiring about a room for the night. The poor fellow looked quite afraid.
Really? What was so strange about him?
He had quite an old look about him, not clean-shaven, but with the features and clothing of a dwarf. Yet he could not possibly have been a dwarf, no. Dwarf I've ever heard of would sacrifice his beard to the knife. Even today, I cannot say I truly knew his race.
How very odd.
He had no coin about him. I was about to turn him away when he offered me an exceptionally fine dwarven blade as compensation. A beautiful piece, inscribed with the initials BMC. It fetched quite a price when I sold it.
He must have surely been a dwarf. Was there anything more?
The only other inquiry he made was the quickest route to Rat. I told him that was normally a lengthy journey, but that he was totally in luck. The maiden voyage of IFS Zephyr would be leaving for Caledon shortly. It was surely to be the quickest way.
It was not luck that brought the people aboard that doomed ship.
Yes, the Zephyr was such an incredible tragedy. Oh, yes. I let him know that it would need proper identification to board. He looked the type to be lacking, so I referred him to a man I heard of in Caledon. Mr. Rosea, rather a shady character, but helpful when it comes to passports.
So, he said he was going to get on the Zephyr. Are you positive?
He thanked me and went into his room. When I awoke the next morning, he was gone. Did not say a word, just left. Ouch. Well, I told you he was a strange one. Anyway, that was the only person I know that would have been on that accursed flight.
Thank you for the information. Tons of people in this room. Holy shit.
A pleasure to meet you, sir.
What do you know, friend?
Just having a drink. Hey, perhaps you're interested in a game of wits.
No. Not really.
My name is Frederick, if you must know, peasant. Now, please...
Peasant! I have more gold than you have in your entire life. Everyone here is drinking. What a bunch of drunks. Hello, bitch in a green dress. I heard from an old merchant in the tavern the other night. He was talking about a strange lagoon he's seen on his way down from the Glimmering. It's directly north of here, along the coast. Not that I'd go anywhere near it. You have my gratitude. I shall look for it. Sorry, I didn't see anyone there. I thought that was just straight up stealing.
thing. This inn sucks. It sucks balls.
My name's Trevor Linwood. I'm a journalist from the Trachian.
Quite away from home, aren't you?
Yes, I'm on assignment, although it's not going so well.
What's the problem?
Well, it's supposed to be simple. Take a picture, get back to Durant as quick as I could.
A picture? What are you supposed to photograph? The elusive
The wyvern? Ever heard of it? No, what is it? Legend describes it as a tremendous two-legged dragon, winged claws, the whole bit. The difference with the last I've read is it's fucking crazy.
A dragon around here? What's different about it?
Apparently, every time it strikes, it destroys a bit of its victim's memory. Some sort of venom or something. Enough attacks, the victim can't even remember how to flee. And the lift's got itself an easy meal.
That sounds pretty fucking awesome.
Yes. From my research, I've surmised that very few creatures ever survived an encounter with the Lith. And those few that do usually don't remember shit.
I certainly don't see anything simple about the assignment.
Well, I didn't really believe it. Thought it was all a hoax. I just came up here with my editor. Mr. Wright wanted a hot story. Hot, hot, hot. He thought if we could get a picture of the wyvern, our sales would boom shakalaka.
I see. He'd want you to come. No luck finding the wyvern, huh?
No, that's just it. I've seen it. A truly horrible beast. I caught the merest glimpse, but that was all it took. It was gigantic. My heart froze. My skin began to crawl like maggots. I swear, I even forgot which way I should shit myself.
Sounds horrible. Didn't you get the photograph?
I couldn't even snap one shot off. I was a total pussy. And now I'm not going back. There's no fucking way I'm going back. What am I to do? Mr. Wright will fire me for certain.
I can get you the photograph, you puss.
You would want to risk yourself to photograph the beast? Why would you do that?
Because I'm fucking awesome, that's why. I'd get paid, wouldn't I?
But of course. I'm being paid 500 coin, but I've spent part of that. I wouldn't be able to pay you more than 300.
300 coin for risking my mind? I think it's worth more than that.
Yes, definitely agree it's worth more. You know, you'd be saving my career. I could throw in some coin for the cause. If you do it, I'll pay you a full 500.
It's a deal. What do I need to do?
Here, take my camera. All you need to do is get within visual range of the left. Then use the camera on it. After that, I'd run like the wind. Here, I'll mark on the map with the location. One more thing. I've heard rumors that the old bridge exists there. I did not have a chance to look for it, but it may be of interest to you, an adventurer like myself.
Thanks, Trevor. I'll get the photograph and I'll BRB. Hello, sir. Might I ask your name?
Oh, of course. My name is Jason. Jason C. Guy, to be precise.
What are you doing out here, Jason C. Guy?
Well, my good man, I'm studying the Ring of Brogdar.
Studying? Why?
I've always been fascinated with the Ring of Brodgar. It is strange, the histories always mention the Black Spire synonymously with the Ring of Brodgar, but its meaning is lost in antiquity. Perhaps it symbolizes the power of the wards. I do not know. I came here to study wards and to see how they are holding up.
Wards? Wards? Oh, wards, okay.
Yes, the rift the Nazarene created when banishing Aronnax required all the great mages of the Age of Legends to set up powerful wards around the ring in order to keep the rift sealed.
Why would they not be holding up?
Technology has spread throughout the land at an amazing pace. I feel that its propensity would have caused the wards to weaken like little bitches. That is why I am here, to ascertain the strength of the wards.
What have you found?
The results of my studies are quite puzzling. As I suspected, the wards are weakening, but at a rate much more accelerated than I had originally calculated.
What happens if the wards fail?
I am sure the great mages placed such powerful wards in their place for a purpose, but many years have passed. That knowledge has been lost on us. I fear if they were to fail, something terrible would occur.
Pah! I don't believe any of that ancient legend talk.
Is there anything else I can do for you, Ron Stock?
What area of study have you specialized?
I've learned many things from the great minds gathered at the University of Trent. My most extensive studies were in the colleges of chemistry and electrical. I earned a full degree in both areas.
What studies in the field of magic?
Tula is a truly city of wonder. The common man has not even the inkling of an idea of the power that exists there. After much study and exhaustive practice, I was able to master the college of temporal.
The extent of your knowledge is astounding, Jason C. Guy. What do you know of the Ring of Brodgar?
The Ring of Brodgar is an exact spot where Nazareth banished the evil Aronnax after their epic battle. Apparently, the banishment spell created a tremendous opening or rift between our world and that of the Void.
What did they do to close it?
The few great mazes who survived the battle had erected the ring in order to seal the rift. I have read that they have placed magical wards of tremendous power throughout the ring to keep it sealed in place.
They must have been very powerful. Do you feel that magic or technology will ultimately prevail?
I have studied many things. I've received technological training from the great University of Tarant, as I've said 7 times. I've also studied magic in the wondrous city of Toro, which I've said 9 times. Through all my learning, I have developed a theory.
Uh-huh.
I believe that the things work in cycles. Everything natural goes through cycles of ebb and flow. I believe magic and technology are no different. There is only one major flaw.
What is that?
This appears to be the initial appearance of technology. There is no known history that advanced technology existed before now. As a result, I am unable to prove my theory.
Ah, interesting. Have you searched for signs?
Extensively and to no avail. Say, you're a traveler. If in all of your travels you come across any signs of ancient technology, I would be greatly appreciated if you would let me know. It would really help my hypothesis.
I will let you know if I see anything. Goodbye. I need to go kill and maim and destroy innocent people now. Speaking of which, did I search this innkeeper's body? Ooh, a key. Unidentified ring.
I believe you can also steal a ring if you want. I might as well use one of my fate points on it. I just feel like stealing, really. And you succeed. And we steal a cool little identified ring. I believe one of these is a ring of arcane, one's a ring of protection. Either way, we can give them amongst our friends. We've also got a medallion of beauty there. I think it just increases beauty by +1. Of course, my Jewel of Hebe is much nicer. Also, my Constitution +2 is much nicer. Not a big fan of the Charmed Ring. Just +5 resistance against everything. Let's go get History of the Dark Elves from the cemetery while we're here.
Quoth the raven, nevermore. Philip Misk. And there's our book. I dedicate this to my dearest raven. I would gladly face again the horrors and 1,000 others. Only another moment with you. Dearest reader, it is only with the greatest fear and trepidation I share this harrowing tale with you today.
Even here, safe within the confines of my own home, I am still overcome with dread at the thought of what I am about to tell you, and what it might mean for me or those close to me. Yet I feel compelled to do so, and the great muse guides my pen to this paper, and the words flow forth from the darkest regions of my heart and mind, where they have stayed well hidden until this very evening. I beg of you, give ear to my confession, and if you please, take this tale from me, and return only your belief and trust, and what you are about to hear is only and nothing but the truth. My name is Renford A. Terwilliger, born on the outlying regions of Ashbury, not far from the lair of Bellerogrim, where they found the bones of the great dragon. My childhood was a bright one, full of happiness and light, and my parents gave me all that a child might need. I was schooled both practically and excellently. When my 18th year came round, I was accepted into Toronto University, and ultimately found my way into the Torontian Zoological Society. Archaeology was my first love, but my first assignment with the society was in the Cultural Anthropology Department. It was somewhat of a farce, actually, but the society had been given an enormous grant by one of Toronto's leading philanthropists for a very specific purpose. That purpose was to confirm the existence of dark elves. Every man, woman, and child in Arcanum has been raised on the ghost stories and bedtime tales of these strange people, known only as the Dark Elves. To the anthropologists, they are the proverbial oasis in the desert. Proof of their existence has always literally disappeared into thin air. No man has ever set eyes upon them, and not one shred of physical evidence has ever been found to establish that they were real. Myths and legends were plentiful, but for the itinerant scientist, this means less than nothing. What was needed was undeniable evidence, and I set out on this adventure, determination and confidence in my ability to bring forth just that. Had I known what lay ahead, I would have forsworn both anthropology and philanthropy, and returned to work as a day laborer in Ashbury shipyards. Better than back-breaking work, when the nightmares I face every night. Before leaving Toronto, I was employed in the services of a certain Jaren Benal, an Elven tracker who was recommended to me by the noble Mr. Quentin Payne, famed explorer and gentleman in every sense of the word. Jaren Benal was born in the Glimmering Forest, and was said there wasn't a more knowledgeable man about the deep elven groves in the side of Stonewall Mountains. His fees were a little less than reasonable, but I had been given enormous liberty in spending the allotted funds, and it was my honest opinion that Mr. Benal was crucial to the success of the mission. I couldn't have been more correct. Within weeks, we were well within the deepest and yet uncharted regions of the Western Glimmering, and never once did the inflammable Mr. Benal look at his compass nor consult a map. Occasionally, he would stand for a moment within the clearing beneath a great tree, head cocked, eyes closed, but aside from these infrequent moments of meditation, it was all we could do to keep up with him. Upon the 42nd day of our journey, we came to a meadow seemingly alive with a multitude of birds, butterflies that flew above. Crossing this fragrant and lively field with one of the most vivid moments I'd experienced in the journey so far, and I was so enthralled by the scene around me that I almost missed the most spectacular vision given to the eyes of mortal man. Quintara, the great elven tree city, lay within the towering trees at the end of the clearing, hanging like cut jewel in the crown of the king. The mother tree, almost 400 feet tall, housed the intricately carved Hall of Truth, which shone white and smooth in the noonday sun. Impossibly thin walkways wove in and out of walls of the great tree, not taking away from the natural beauty, but adding to it, as if the city were merely a convenient and beautiful tangle of leaves and branches, tattooed with the flowing runes and symbols in the ancient Elven tongue. And among these, the graceful and lithe forms of the elves singing their beautiful songs and looking down upon the ragtag group of men with curiosity and amusement. Of Quintara, I can say only this. The month I spent there was the best of my entire life. I learned much less about the Dark Elves than I would have liked, almost nothing truly, but the moments I spent were strange, wonderful, and breathtaking. I will not do them a disservice by attempting to put them into words. Suffice it to say that I learned there was a young man that often takes other lifetimes to my teacher. I gave heartfelt thanks and the warmest greetings. There's not a day goes by that I don't think of you. We left the trees of Quintar with little more than a faint whispers about Dark Elves and where they might be found. The elves of Quintar were very reluctant to speak on them, and they begged us to forget such foolishness and go home to Trent. I, of course, would hear no such talk. We traveled on north this time. Mr. Benal believed he had uncovered a clue as to the whereabouts during his investigations while in Quintara, and he had discovered a name, Senga, the home of the Dark Elves. We traveled for 17 more days, exhausting our supplies and sending most of our party back to Toronto. The forest had become thicker and more brambly, and it seemed that many of the trees are adorned with thorns, some more than a foot long. Another week, and it was only Mr. Banal and myself, as we agreed to return before the first month, if we failed any further evidence of the Dark Elves' existence. That gave us 6 days to find Sinan, and we pressed on despite our anxiety and fatigue. On the day before we had planned to return, the weather took a vicious turn. From out of the north came the thunderheads, and lightning flew down from the skies like barbed lances of white fire. It began to rain, and we found an uneasy shelter beneath the massive roots of one of the great trees, which seemed poised over us like a giant and grotesquely gnarled hand. I was shivering and not altogether from the cold and rain. Weird shadows played against the trunks of the trees as the storm strengthened and lightning became more frequent. Thunder tore the sky above our heads. I looked at Mr. Banal, and for the first time since we left Tarrant, I saw fear reflected in his eyes. I can't say when I first became aware of them, but right moment we were looking out through the rain, I began to notice shadows that stayed even after the lightning that subsided. The shadows became phantoms, the phantoms something worse. They were stark still, tall, wiry, ghostly faces, color of ivory, eyes of the blackest night. Their hair hung in limp strands against their foreheads and cheeks, and they stood unblinking, oblivious to the storm and its ragings. Banal screamed something to my right, and then was pulled bodily from the shelter, the roots above. He screamed once more, and then was silent. I never heard, nor saw him again. I ran headlong past the elves in front of me, swinging blindly to Kael Path. I was mad with fear, and my feet carried me deeper into the forest. I thought I heard the dark and twisted laughter above and behind me. Among shadowy figures, I darted among the trees to my left and right. Thorns tore at my arms and legs, and I stumbled among the stones, underbrush, screaming incoherently. More than once, great elven arrows sunk into the trees around me, grazing my skin as they flew by. They were playing with me, enjoying the hunt, waiting for just the right moment. My head was light from exhaustion and blood loss, and I fell to my knees, gasping for air. When I looked up, I saw it. There in the trees above me was Senang, the home of the Dark Elves. Unlike Quintera, Senang was an abomination, slouched in the branches of a great beast, waiting for its prey. There were sputtering fires all along its battlements and great spikes protruding from every surface like dragon spines. I saw a robed figure, not and terrible, lined along its walkways and looking down upon me, beckoning. It seemed for me to join them. I screamed again as the figures seemed to raise their voices in unison. A terrible call without the sound or meaning, but I heard them nonetheless. They were cursing me. They were welcoming me. In moments I was surrounded again by my pursuers. Through the downpour, I saw them unsheathe daggers, their ghostish smiles, floating towards me as the thunder roared above. I closed my eyes, praying to whatever god would hear me. There was nothing else I could do. And then from nowhere, arrows were flying from behind me and above me. In moments I was encircled completely with half-buried shafts from the thickest hunting arrows. And the dark elves around me whirled to and fro in confusion. One pulled his bow from his back and notched an arrow in one flowing movement, but was shot through the heart before he raised it past his shoulder. He fell silently unbelieving. The others looked at me for a moment, the pierced hatred harbored in their eyes, and then disappeared into the night's hands conspicuously at their sides. Amazed and spent, I fainted. I awoke some days later, many miles from the northern reaches of the Glimmering. I was alone, but my wounds had been treated. My supplies had been replenished. I was back in Tarrant not 2 weeks later. I never met my rescuers, but can guess who they were and what they were from. I thank them if they are reading this. Without their aid, I would surely have died there in the shadows of Senang. And so, dear friend, again, I beg of you to believe these words, and the man has told them to you. I do so only share this burden as others gain comfort from my kind. At the very least, let these words stand as a warning to you. Often, evil is a tangible thing, and sometimes it is people and a place. Such are the Dark Elves, and such is the hell that is called their home. I never return to the Glimmering Forest, and I pray that I never do. Some things are better left alone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time with some more Arcanum.